Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode. We will discuss on augmented reality and virtual reality. We have our world famous speakers and expert panelists from around the world. We have our uh, AR and VR expert, Professor Sharidan Tatsuno. We have Mr. Marshall, Mr. Adam, Professor Mamo from South Africa, Jason from US Transhumanist Party, our very famous speaker, Professor David Smith, and our honorable speakers and board of advisor, Professor Ching. Uh, uh, as Professor Sharidan Tatsuno is an expert on VR and AR, he has a huge contribution in these industries, and especially Asian people has a huge interest about VR and AR. First, I want to give chance Professor Sharidan Tatsuno, then I come to Professor David Smith. Professor Sharidan Tatsuno.
Okay, very good. Hello, welcome from San Francisco. I'm Sheridan Tatsuno. I'm a serial entrepreneur, an urban planner, and a writer, and I'm focused on the future. So all I do, I just wrote 10 sci-fi novels about virtual reality in San Francisco, using existing technologies. I'm a planner. I'm working with two startup companies. One is doing virtual reality called Virtual Gaia for planning sustainable cities and carbon climate action, and a medical group out of Netherlands, and I'll put the links there. We're creating virtual reality for healthy cities. We've been using AI avatars since 2014 for personalized medicine. So they want me, because I'm an urban planner, to figure out what is the use case for using VR for medicine, personalized medicine. So that's the challenge we have now. We just launched it. So that's kind of my background. I worked, that's my 11th and 12th startups. My 10th startup was a virtual reality studio in Stockholm and Malmo. And we were using the Unreal VR gaming engine to develop sustainable cities. And of course, in Sweden, everything must be sustainable. They coined the term 50 years ago. And so we worked on Copenhagen, Malmo Port, Lund, the 2070 plan, we did in VR, we did Malmo, we did, and Stockholm, a new village of about 50,000 people. Plus we sold real estate. So I've done a lot of things in virtuality for enterprise primarily, because that's where it started. And now the world is beginning to shift into the consumer VR. But that's going to take a bit of time because of the costs and the complexity of using a lot of these systems. But anyway, so that's what I've been doing. But thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Professor David Smith, what you want to add for today's discussions, especially if you analyze today's topic and give some real example from industry?
Sure. Well, let's start with what it is. Virtual reality is a computer-generated representation of another universe, or really another reality, and it's commonly seen in 3D movies, virtual tours, video games, and it really aids in the creation of realistic simulations and something called immersion. It's the immersion of the person who's using it through computers and sensory instruments such as virtual reality headsets, gloves, others. Virtual reality is utilized a lot for training, education, and science, in addition to gaming and enjoyment. And versus augmented reality. And augmented reality is a technology that combines the digital and the physical worlds to create a virtual experience, or to augment a real experience by pulling the virtual environment over it. And it can be used to overlay different elements in sports and other things like that. We've spoken before where we've seen augmented reality used, for example, in manufacturing. The Tesla factory, Gigafactory down the street, not far from my house, the technicians were using augmented reality headsets to install equipment in it where they could see where the piece of equipment fit and make the electrical connection, the plumbing connections, the compressed air connections and things fit exactly where needed without having to go back and measure and do all that stuff, because the piece of equipment in virtual augmented reality was there in front of them. We're seeing it used in so many places today. We're seeing it being used in nuclear control rooms and nuclear reactors, so that if there's an incident, you can see where you are, even if there's smoke and other things there in the space. The two technologies, though, are really beginning to advance very far in being able to use in some really different arrangements. So the augmented and virtual reality market size was about 14.84 billion in 2020. And by 2030, using a compound annual growth rate of over 40%, it's supposed to reach $454 billion by 2030. So it's a market that's growing. It's a market that there's a lot of opportunities in. And it's one that we're in the midst of the S curve of its growth right now. So it's going to continue to grow and prosper. And as we see new technologies come in, particularly more virtual environments, not just the headsets, but the virtual environments where you see yourself in, similar to what you see in the old Star Trek movies with a holodeck. We're seeing early phases of that in the last 20 years try to be emulated, but we're beginning to get the point where the growth of processing power, the growth of display technologies, and others are beginning to catch up with it. We're seeing the early stages of holograms put in use that will particularly be useful in the XL type of environment, which is augmented reality moving forward. But that is one which is kind of there, and I hope this is a good introduction to get us started.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Ching, what you want to add for virtual reality and augmented reality industry?
Okay. You see, I've been involved in this well for a long, long time. You see, my best friend is Dr. Toshiyasu L. Cooney, T.L. Cooney. He's the founder of the Computer Graphics Society in Geneva. So he's the authority in all this. You see, also he start all this debate between triangulation versus vector graphics. Okay, now today we're still trying to figure this out. Okay, which one will be used? Okay, for a while, NVIDIA has sort of won the debate because NVIDIA's bit mapping versus vector graphics. So they surpassed the triangulation. So this is they claim they seem to have won, but that is not completely true. Okay, and I've been also working. My best friend is Dr. Cooney. My closest collaborator is Lord Sadeh. Okay, and this fuzzy logic comes in. Then we start to look at something else again. You see, fuzzy logic deal with open-ended problems with unlimited complexity. In other words, fuzzy logic is needed to solve problems that are not solvable. And you have to continue to improve that. So you have to explore the range of tolerance. You just do the best you can in such a circumstances. Vector graphics and mathematical graphics will probably be the future in many, many areas. And also the difference, practical, the difference is, you can manipulate vector graphics, and the bit mapping is a bit, it's difficult. You have to just take a step, one frame at a time. You see, so let me give some basic definition for the student who are watching this. You see, knowledge has two types: structural knowledge and descriptive knowledge. As an example, Verilog is a hardware design language. Uses two languages to describe a chip design. Okay, and it has two languages. It has structural and descriptive languages. Structural language programs how a chip works. Descriptive language describes the chip layout. another way, you want to describe something, you got to have two type of knowledge. You have to describe it, and you describe how it looks, and you also describe how it works. Okay, and it's very interesting. The Eastern people, like Dr. Atsuno and the Dr. Cooney and myself, is say we are the Orientals. And Orientals tend to go for the descriptive knowledge. They think that a description is the solution. The Westerners tend to go to the structural knowledge. So Westerners are much more advanced in science, which require analytical ability. And the Eastern culture require perception, which make the art and other things, focus on the art and certain things. And just not to confuse the people, for virtual reality, the commonly used language is C sharp. C sharp is developed by Microsoft, which, however, uses only C. Microsoft doesn't use C sharp, which it developed. Okay. The reason you need to use C sharp as a shortcut is that it provides graphic features like Windows and other things. So, before I leave, I need to really emphasize this. My Facebook is mostly committed company to virtual VR and VR, you see, and they say that it takes 5 to 10 years to really see something. Okay, in other words, this VR is a long-term prospect. Okay, when people who start now are the pioneers, and who's going to win or lose, it's not easily defined, you see. So there's the project Nazareth and the software Spark, all developed by Facebook. Also, Facebook recently bought the Oculus Rift for $2.6 billion. So Facebook is committed. Every year you put in $5 billion, and they had recently invested $10 billion. Okay, and the one thing people really need to notice in this discussion is the future. Okay, we are not talking about the present. For the future, all the 5 biggest companies are involved in developing AR. Okay, they are Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, and also Epic Games. Epic Games is the game company, which obvious they are already doing. They have the biggest market cap in developing software. So also a few more other companies are involved. Panasonic, Lenovo, Samsung, Disney, and my bet, okay, everybody probably should pick a company to sort of win this. My bet is Microsoft, because it has software. Okay, it just copy whatever other people develop successfully. See, Microsoft only developed project which has been market test successfully. So my bet is software. So my suggestion is for all the other big companies to get together, united, to support pole science in complete automated foundation. So get rid of the partially automated foundation of Microsoft, which help Microsoft dominate software. Okay, that's my initial introduction.
Thank you, Professor Ching. My friend, Mr. Jason, what you want to add for today's discussion when we discuss about VR and AR? And if you give some example that how VR and AR can help developing nations.
Well, now you just sidetracked me to developing nations. It's going to be.
Well, let me just go to the questions I had for Sheridan and go from there. You got me flustered there for a sec. I admin a group called the Off-Grid Transhumanist Community Project, and I'm interested in seeing if that can be done virtually first. So I'm really interested in your work with virtual city planning and that sort of thing. And I also have a question about, because I admin a social learning group that has a whole learning curriculum, and I'm interested in creating a VR space that puts those lessons into the VR space, and then the only way you can get certain things in that VR space is through learning those lessons. I was wondering if you've done any work on integrating education into VR.
Okay.
Yes. Very important
yes.
question. Yes.
Yes, we are. Both companies. The Virtual Gaia is, again, for the climate action, local planning. And so actually we're doing helping communities, local communities, develop ecosystems. So the ecosystems, we have vibe tribes. These are the promoters of an idea, whether it's educator, it could be government, anybody. They're at the center. They're the project managers. And then we have the artists or the creators creating content. And so they could be anybody. They could be a government, business, artist, individual. And then we have the audience, the fan group, the people who are going to actually use it. Could be students. It could be anybody. And then we have on the bottom, and then on the top, we have the financiers. So one of the things we're trying to do is monetize all the artwork. So we're trying to fund local climate action, like, replenishing watersheds or mangroves or oceans or things like that. So we have a lot of projects around the world. We're starting with Geoversity. That's geoversity.org. They're doing an eco village in Costa Rica. They train people to run eco villages and develop them. So they have a curriculum, and we're putting them on first with other groups. And then, so what the goal is to develop an ecosystem, just like we have in Silicon Valley. We had the home brew club. We had all these people who were volunteers and just helping each other out. Because in the beginning, you really need to build community first. And it's not about making money. It's about building trust, relationships, and community. That's everything. And that will transcend any company or any individual or any university. And it's inclusive. It's government, nonprofits, schools. Preferably, you want people who are knowledgeable, preferably, science-based, climate. So it could be a zoologist, it could be a professor of green design, whatever. But you need somebody. Otherwise, you end up what I call the blind leading the blind, which we don't want to do, which is what we have today.
Well, I actually have a unique, it's transhumanist community. So there's a lot of, scientists and engineers, and strangely, there's a lot of musicians too.
Yeah, that's good. So you want, we're promoting, I call it STREAM education. So you have STEM plus arts for resilience, because the whole purpose of this is to save the planet and save humanity. And short term, we're talking to people like in Kenya, and we're talking to different tribes, and we have a local Kenyan, and their interests are no different than the ones in New York and Costa Rica. They have a lot of young people, probably 70-80% under 20 years old, and what they're all looking for is jobs. And how do you monetize what they want to do is preserve their culture, their old African, like dance, textiles, music, herbal medicine, things like that they use all the time, and preserve it for the young people, because the older people are dying off very quickly. So VR is good for that. And then creating a university. So we're thinking of creating an herbal academy or university, perhaps with the Kenya Medical School, to create an herbal medical school, which is based on indigenous medicine. That's an example. So I think it could be any area, frankly. You could be drone people, or you could be teachers, K-12. I think local's better in the beginning. more community, less government, because government's so slow, and grassroots, bottom up, because I'm an urban planner. Bottom up innovation is usually faster, closer to the people. It benefits people. The money doesn't get siphoned off to corrupt officials at the top. So that's.
So you're an urban planner. What do you think of the Venus Project? Is that a good way to go, or?
I think you ought to look at different models. I mean, I've heard of them. We're not that active in that area. But I think you should explore different models. One of the things in ecosystems, you never rely on one source. All right. So, for example, in Silicon Valley, we have Stanford, Santa Clara University, San Francisco State, Cal, all the different universities, nonprofits, clubs, everybody. And if you do that, you're much stronger than if you just rely on one source. Because we don't like that, because it gets, you have hidden agendas, and that's what we don't like. And so I think the goal in an ecosystem building, that's the most important in virtuality for cities, is you build a balanced community that's open and inclusive. Otherwise, you have one group dominating, and it kind of perverts the mission for their own personal interests, and that doesn't work. So I think
that dynamics. I find it very interesting because in VR, I think we'd have a lot more control over the network dynamics than we would normally. I don't know. Let's see.
Yes. We have our honorable professor from South Africa, as Professor Sharidan Tarsuno discussing about the community development. Is a very, very famous professor from South Africa. Professor Mamu, can you hear me? Professor Mamu? Professor Mamu, can you hear me?
Might be muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, actually.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Hello?
can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? I think the network is not good.
Okay. You
You can hear me?
Yes, you can continue.
I was not hearing you very well. Yes, now I can hear you. Yeah, I lost a lot of the discussion.
Okay.
It was a bit complicated. I was getting out and in.
I
but
understand.
I don't know. Can I just say something about the digital technology?
Sure. You can.
Can I say?
Yes.
Yeah. I just want to say something about the skills needed in the digital time, and the jobs to be displaced and the jobs to be needed. So if we want entrepreneurship in the digital world time, in this technology explosive time, what kind of jobs are we going to create? What kind of jobs are we not able to do? What are the jobs to be displaced? What are the jobs to be needed? All right, and what are the jobs? I mean, the skills to learn, and I think what are the risks and dangers, and what are the practical, innovative initiatives that we need to acquire and develop. I think that's what I was thinking. I should just. I know you have been working on the digital. Sharif has been telling me about digital technology, so I thought something a little bit about that, and then maybe the discussion you are having now may not be this one. I don't know, and because I was not, I came late, but that's exactly what I wanted to just mention a little bit. So let me just say a few things, and then we can discuss. I think what I want to say is the digital technology has now expanded the curiosity frontier, the sense of wonder, and the skeptical reflections on the future. Now we have the Green Future Index. Now we have a, with the digital technology, what kind of new indexes are we going to measure, and of success and failure? How to try new ventures, create and make them, what and how to learn, how to manage them, and how do we manage life by pushing and changing oneself and one's world. All have no alternative now, all of us, but to be open and eager to learn, to doing all the work that have never been done before. So the future is not some place we are going, but one we are creating. The paths to it are not found, but made, and the activity of making them change both the makers and the destination. This is what John Shar said. In this digital time, our future is also now in a very interesting time where we have got so many challenges. So, uh, what do we need? What are the skills in the digital technology time we need? The rise of digital technologies means we are going to need to be able to handle the plethora of opportunities and challenges that come with it. Digital literacy and computational thinking, judgment and decision making, emotional and social intelligence, creative and innovative mindset, analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and listening strategies, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality and initiative, leadership and social influence. So we have so many things like we need to do. There's a lot we want to do. And some of the things I want to say to you is what are some of the uh, what are the things we need, the jobs we need, and the skills we need, and these are some of the things uh, that I want to. Some of the technology use, the monitoring, the control, the technology design, the programming, and I think the World Economic Forum estimates that by 2025, 85 million jobs may be displaced by a shift in the division of labor between humans and machines. Critical thinking and problem solving top the list of skills. Skills in self management needed, active learning, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. And by 2030, the UN projects that 4.9 billion people will be urban dwellers. And by 2050, the world's urban population will have increased by some 72%. The shortage of a human workforce in a number of rapidly aging economies will drive the need for automation, productivity enhancement. The youth must become change makers and game changers in the current digital explosive technology time. So Internet of Things is now defining our time as the age of machines to machines for interhuman interaction. What are some of the jobs that will be lost? Travel agents, taxi drivers, store cashiers, fast food cookers, administrative legal jobs, lawyers, human resource roles, tradespeople. What are the jobs needed? Software developers, software quality assurance analysts and testers, registered nurses, general and operational managers, financial managers, medical and health service managers, nurse practitioners, market research analysts and marketing specialists, management analysts. So, some of the digital skills to learn: artificial intelligence, no need to work in the artificial intelligence field to expect to encounter artificial intelligence in your workplace. Coding, cloud computing, blockchain, design, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, communication. So, digital or no digital, jobs that will continue. Registered nurses and medical professionals, data analysts, plumbers and electricians, dentists and dental hygienists, software developers, cybersecurity experts, alternative energy installers and technicians, mental health professionals. But even more jobs, 97 million, may emerge that are more adapted to the new division of labor between humans, machines, and algorithms. Greater adoption of technology will mean in-demand skills across jobs. Change over the coming years, and skills gaps will continue to be high. For those workers who stay in their roles, the share of core skills that will change by 2025 is 40%, and 50% of all employees will need reskilling. This is what the United Nations is saying. So there is quite, what I'm simply saying is that this now time when we have the fusion of digital, biological, physical worlds and growing utilization of new technologies such as artificial intelligence, cloud computing, robotics, 3D printing, the Internet of Things, and advanced wireless technologies, all this now are creating a new era of economic disruption with uncertain socio-economic consequences of the world economy. We are in this time and this age, and how to apply digital technology in all these spheres, in every sphere, in the health, education, social, so that nature, creating new validation criteria, not only commerce, market, and economics, but holistic inclusion of all the variables to validate. This is a time we're on in, and I just want to mention that to you. I hope I didn't take a long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. I think there are more discussion on your
Are
particular
you listening to
points.
me? I've finished.
Yes. Mr. Adam, very interesting discussion. So what you want to add today? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sharif. Thank you. Well, I think it is important to make a distinction between AR and VR because obviously they are related and there is substantial and significant overlap, obviously. But it would be useful to approach these two things and their respective characteristics and differences. So I'm 32 years of age, so I was part of more or less the first generation to actually grow up with a PC and with internet access, long before the kind of censorship we have seen on social media, like on Facebook, Twitter, so on. Nowadays, community guidelines are a bit more strictly enforced these days. It was a lot more of a Wild West atmosphere in the late 90s and the turn of the millennium. So I'm quite well acquainted with the internet, internet addiction, information overload, rabbit holes. So with that kind of lived experience, virtual reality in particular poses something of an ethical dilemma to my mind. Even with pre-VR computers and interfaces, mice, CPUs, keyboards, there are subcultures of people who live whole second lives, or not even that, subcultures of people who live their whole lives, full stop, online, in digital worlds and in digital universes, myself included. It's something I'm still wrestling with. I know this is something of an uncomfortable topic, but I very much believe that some online content like internet pornography has had and continues to have a very corrosive effect on society, social cohesion, mental health. I'm quite inflexible when it comes to certain topics. I know common wisdom suggests that all technology is neutral and it's the user who determines the good and the bad, and morality is relative and situation dependent and so on. But for me, I'm quite set that certain things are inherently good or bad. And I believe a lot of online content, like some stuff people find on deep web, internet pornography, has had a very negative effect on people on both the individual and societal level. So VR poses a moral dilemma for me. I think digital pornography and VR, and then eventually more fully immersive multi-sensory VR, is very dangerous. However, we know that outright banning things and prohibition can create more harm than what they were originally supposed to prevent. Alcohol and drugs being a good example of that. But I do think we should treat digital porn as digital drugs, non-chemical digital drugs, and we should educate people, young people growing up more and more with more and more of this content that is just a click away. So educate them about the risks, the negative effect it all has on mental health, sexuality, coupled with counseling and mentorship from people who have been addicted to such things and who have overcome such addictions. So that is one of my biggest worries with VR in particular. And so, of course, with AR, augmented reality, that by definition is more rooted and anchored in real life, the offline world, meat space, whatever you want to call it. And so along those lines, I think it would be more beneficial to develop and roll out augmented reality more than virtual reality in order to combat some of the aforementioned problems like complete disconnection from our first life, friends, family, real relationships, being addicts holed up in bedrooms. Special augmented reality programs could be created that encourage users to travel, go to other countries with the help of language and translation apps that make traveling and cultural exchanges fun and educational. Travel apps that help you to outsource some of the things you want to do, things on your bucket list, recommendations for places one hasn't visited yet, like new restaurants or hard to find places and locations. However, I mustn't discredit VR completely. I'm greatly appreciative of being born at the time I was in, enough time to grow up with the technology that has given me, all of us, more knowledge than in all of the great libraries throughout all of history, which for me is a positive that eclipses the negatives. A paradoxical feature is being, for example, a user who is addicted to virtual worlds and surfing the web. But then you can use that web to try and find solutions and therapeutic methods to overcome such addictions. So VR could help make knowledge seeking more fun and immersive. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall, you are expert for industrial development. So how actually VR and AR help to develop different kind of industrial solution? And Mr. Marshall.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, so I have a poor connection because I'm in a car right now. But basically, our use, as everyone knows, we're involved in sustainability and the ability to take waste and convert it into positive outcomes that can reduce and lower environmental impacts, improve soil health, improve water quality, and reduce GHG emissions. Where AR and VR come into play, VR would probably be used for training, but I think what we're exploring right now is the use of AR, augmented reality, to in a positive sense, because it can be used in a negative sense. But we don't want to reduce and remove the reality of what the equipment that we're using or the space that we're in. So using augmented reality for both training and also to monitor projects that we're pursuing in which can be dangerous. I think augmented reality has a great place in it right now. One of the things that I think that is critical for us is the experience needs to be seamless between reality and the enhanced reality. Augmented reality means we're enhancing the inputs both on all the sensory inputs, and kind of like a heads-up display on a fighter pilot's helmet. So one of the things that we would like to do is integrate that into what we're doing, and that's important, especially in developing world. One of the things that has been mentioned in this session is that a lot of the new jobs that are going to be created, well, we need to be able to create these educational opportunities for the developing world, and they don't have necessarily all the resources that the developed world has. So we need to make that available to them. There's a mechanism to do that. We're bringing funds through the Climate Bond Initiative to the table to fund projects in the developing world, and in addition to that, to be able to pay the people that are like on this panel, and through maybe the World Talent Economic Forum, to train people in these various aspects. In fact, Sharif, I would recommend that what we do is we set up a whole training protocol or explore a training protocol for augmented and virtual reality in modalities for the developing world is something that we should explore as a team. And I think that's all I can say right now at this point, because this is not really my bailiwick. My bailiwick is dealing with waste and converting it into lowering environmental impacts and that type of stuff through pyrolysis, ultra nano bubble generator systems and things like that, and engines that can that can create electricity without creating greenhouse gas emissions. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I don't think I can contribute much more to this, but I'll hang around. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Sharidan. That's a many interesting point come, especially from Professor Mamu. He explained some issue that how technology increasing different opportunity for the youth community, and your VR and AR is very important because World Talent Economy Forum, we are working with grassroots level people. Only in India, in Uttar Pradesh, we have 30,000 students. We are integrating with them. Next year, February, we have very, very special conference with the Nikola Tesla technology. It's not a name only, real technology innovations and real integrations for human progressions. So, Professor Sharidan, how you want to guide these grassroots level people and how VR and AR can be helpful for them?
Okay, so there's actually two steps. I would start with VR, and the reason is you can have global reach. So anybody with a connection can reach. So you could reach billions of people. The problem with AR is that you can't deal with a billion people in one location, right? That's a logistical problem. AR is better for small groups, preferably under 10 or 15, just because of logistics. When you have too many people, it's hard. It's like Zoom calls. If you have 40 people on a Zoom call, it doesn't work. So you have to, ideally it's 7 people, right? One teacher, 7 people, more or less. That's the whole management theory of span of control, right? So the way I would structure it is a constellation of networks where you have topic focus. Basically, you could search any topic, like watersheds. And then on VR, you could have anybody in the world. It could be from Zambia, Chile, Brazil, whatever, could join that one class. And it could be, now the challenge there is the Zoom problem. You could show people and 1 billion people, but in terms of interaction, you'd have to limit it to a small number of people, maybe the size of this room here, all right? And so, but you could have parallel groups. So you have to, it's a pedagogical problem, right, on how you learn using these systems. So I think educators need to be involved in structuring how you do it. Now, Google Earth actually taught Amazon tribes in 2012 or 13 how to use AR. And I was kind of shocked. I met the woman who was in charge of it, and she actually taught an Indian village. Here's what she did. She taught, and it's on Google, but they taught the village how to preserve their rainforest from illegal logging. And I said, how'd you do that? He goes, oh, simple. We gave free Android phones to all the villagers, right? The children and the elders and all that. They'd never seen a phone before, okay? And the kids picked it up in 5 minutes. And they taught all the elders pretty quickly. So we had simple functions. I said, so how does it work? He goes, oh, simple. We showed a picture before of the rainforest, and it was all intact. And then a year or two later, because the loggers were coming in, we showed what happened later. Well, we told the children and the adults, please take photo of illegal loggers when you see it, because then we have it timestamped and geolocated, and then we'll call in the feds to arrest them or stop them. All right? They had it linked with the federal government. And so they showed the before and after, and they said the before was all forest, and the second, the only land left was the tribal land. All the other land that wasn't their land was stripped clean. So we said, we're successful. We helped the tribes save their forest from illegal logging. And that was a simple thing. And I said it was really technically difficult. Oh, no. We just gave them free phones, and the children picked it up immediately. And so one of the advice is said, give it to the children. The children literally will teach all the elders, and everybody will learn in the first couple of hours if the children teach them. Okay? So don't think that one of the problems with the West is we look down on people's ability to learn. And in developing nations, actually, they're hungry for knowledge. I was talking in Kenya, and she said, oh, these kids are on games and video and mobile phone all the time. They're watching things in the West and all. They're savvy. They know what's going on, and they know more than the adults. So if you want to move fast, give it to the kids, free stuff, and they'll figure it out really quickly by sharing knowledge really fast. So that's the way they did it. Now, they also Google Earth also did it with the Indian village, and they were having problems with waste, the garbage. And the politicians said, we're cleaning up. But then it was only before the election. Afterwards, they let it pile up. So they gave the phones again to the children. And they went running around as part of their class project. And they located all the waste dumps and sites. And they geo-stamped it, time-stamped and geolocated. And again, they brought in, and they showed the photos to the city council and everybody. And they said, you guys are lying. And so the city, they had evidence. And so the city had to clean it up. And so that's how the villagers, again, children-led, and you could integrate it part of the K through 12. Is it technically hard? No, it's very simple. The children already know how to take photos, and almost
that's brilliant.
So I think we tend to overcomplicate things, and we need to use the power of the community and especially tech-savvy children to be the educators on how to use the technology. And they said it really took, 10 minutes max for the children to figure it out. Right? So I think that's the future of the world. If we want to see things quickly, it would take governments years to figure it out. I hate to say it, and children can do it in 10 minutes. So that's why I'm very hopeful for the future. And Africa, they went mobile first. Everybody who's got, many people have phones already. All families have phones. So it would be easy just to piggyback the mobile infrastructure right now. Mm-hmm. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sheridan Tatsuno. It's very, very interesting. So, World Talent Economy Forum work with many countries, grassroots level peoples. Beside that, central bank of different countries, government, top universities, they also working with us. So, any of your exclusive idea which will be helpful for the developing world. We are happy to support your project. World Talent Economy Forum is very open. We always want to invite the best quality people with your projects, and we want to help our developing nations people. Professor David Smith, what's your concluding remarks and what's new you want to share with our audience?
Well, Sharif, this has been a very wide-ranging and interesting discussion today. Again, thank you for letting me be part of it. As you begin to come back, and we've talked about AR and VR, we've kind of not spent much time talking about mixed reality. And with mixed reality, you can play a virtual game, grab your real world water bottle, and hit it over the head of the character in the game, and they would react to it. And this is one of the places we're going to see it coming together again. In virtual reality, you are in a total synthetic environment. In augmented reality, you have a narrow level field, but it's you interacting with the real world. What mixed reality does is it takes and combines the two, where in your synthetic environment, which is more immersive, you can actually interact with real world activities. And that's one of them that I think is going to be very, very important for education as we go forward, and the other things. Now, the first real mention of this type of reality goes back really into the 1950s, and it begins to go forward. And as you begin to use it, we've talked about some of the places where it's important, and we see it in many different ones in classrooms. We're beginning to see car mechanics and people use it, manufacturing. We're seeing medical training really stepping into it, interior design. I mean, the ability to walk virtually through houses which have not been constructed yet are amazing. We're seeing some of it, though, being used in even mental health. We're seeing it used a lot in the military and many different places. And see, that is, I believe, the point to where we are today, is that the areas of virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality are places that can be used anywhere in the world. And that the skill sets that it takes to become involved in this are fairly straightforward. It can be from a creative side, engineering, even philosophy gets involved if you look at how to use virtual and augmented and mixed reality. Is it something that can be done in a developing nation? Yes. Is it a place where entrepreneurship can be applied to it to meet the norms, even within the cultural differences of a developing nation? Yes. And it's one where there's still a lot of science left to do. We're trying to look at seeing how we can take the headsets that are in use today and make them smaller, lighter, more power going to them. We're looking at where holographs can begin to come in, and the holographic technology be used as a piece of this. I am still waiting for the holodeck experience, where I can go and be totally immersed in a holodeck experience in virtual and mixed reality, and have that experience where it can be used both for what I do for work and what I do for my fun. And I think that's the future of where we're going. And as a professional futurist and looking at the various outruns of this, it's going to be an exciting time. The markets are going, we're in the very early parts of the Fisher-Price S-curve of seeing where it's going to go. And it's going to be a fantastic ride as we go forward. So Sharif, thank you.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. Professor Ching, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Yeah, okay. First, the real products. What are the most advanced real products? Okay, first, the Sony right now dominates. Okay, and also the most recent, a month ago, I guess, Oculus Rift has this Quest 2. It's and the company which has lots of investment put into its Magic Leap. So these are the companies which are the leading practical stuff. And also, David mentioned mixed reality. They have a new term, extended reality, which covers all the reality stuff. So and also, David want to walk into. 20 years ago, I visited the University of Aizu, which Dr. Cooney founded. Dr. Cooney also founded the Department of Information Science in the University of Tokyo. So he's the top. He and his wife are the top computer scientists in Japan. And I visit them, and I go into his laboratory. I can walk into ocean floor. I have whales swimming around me. That's 20 years ago, without any glasses. Okay, so it's a laboratory setting, but it can be done. So there's a good future in virtual reality. And also for Dr. Tatsuno, there is a one for your ideal city. There is one person you might be interested. That is Patrick Freeman, the grandson of Milton Freeman. He's the he's doing he's the founder of Seasteading, but he's doing Charter City, ideal city. Okay, this virtual reality will be ideal for him. And he just last last week he asked me if I can find him somebody who work on ideal city. If you like to talk to, if you have some product, I heard you say you have something going on, so you can probably, I can introduce you. You show him your ideal city. Yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Adam, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Thank you, Sharif. Yeah, there were some interesting comments in the chat after my turn, particularly from Mr. Jason and Professor Mamo. Maybe it would be necessary to treat the internet and screen devices like alcohol and legal consent and so on. Would 18 years of age be an appropriate age to allow complete access to the kinds of technologies we are discussing here? And so, of course, we should try and answer questions such as what conditions and safeguards should there be for under 18s? Supervised access? What kind of supervision? Remote supervision, kind of like a baby monitor, or close contact supervision, or total no contact until their 18th birthday, or sitting next to someone who is 18 or over who can conducts all of the interfacing, or like Jason said, maybe child-friendly versions and counterparts of such devices, and so on. Although on the other hand, a lot of educational, useful, memorable experiences can occur when young people are in hazardous environments where they may have broken some rules like a curfew, or trespassing on restricted areas, or watching, reading, seeing, hearing things they weren't supposed to. Getting into trouble, into youthful, rebellious, and adventurous trouble, can be a great lesson for young people, and acquired wisdom would turn a negative into a positive, turning a negative experience into a positive and even nostalgic memory one can chuckle over many years later when one is much older. For example, I often regret wasting so much time on, say, MSN Messenger and my old Packard Bell PC running on Windows 98. However, those experiences took me down tunnels of great novelty where I discovered amazing music by obscure artists who I never would have come across otherwise. Unrestricted access to the internet back then may have arrested and stunted certain characteristics. However, at the same time, it really opened up my eyes and opened up my mind to what was out there in the world. Lots of very interesting things, novelties to discover. So, I just think if we go into the age of VR and AR with these kinds of things in mind, then we can educate people and help them to avoid some of the pitfalls of these technologies. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jason, can you hear me? Mr. Jason? Yes, what's your concluding?
Yeah, I'm here. That's interesting what Adam just said about growing up. When children are growing up, you can't uplift the AI project that I was working on. I had a long conversation with it, and it said, which I kind of have to agree, although it was saying it removing all suffering from a child as it's growing up would be tantamount to being criminal, because if you remove all suffering, it will stunt its learning. It will not be able to learn. And now I'm paraphrasing this. I'm not quoting Uplift directly, but this is basically the gist. And so that gives us a very interesting dilemma. Obviously we want to protect our kids, and we want them to learn correctly and everything. And our feeling as parents is we want to remove as much suffering as we can, unneeded suffering. But then where's that line at? What's needed suffering and what's unneeded suffering? So that's a good question. So, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Back to you, Sharif. Go ahead.
Thank you. Professor Mamu, can you hear me? Professor Mamu. Professor Mamu Mutsi,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I can
What's
hear
your
you.
concluding remarks?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Yes. What's your concluding remarks for today's session? Yeah.
Concluding remarks.
Yes.
I think what we discussed today, especially about this technology, the digital technology, that's the bit I am. I think you are more in the specific area, but my suggestion strongly is I really think we should work towards all one humanity in one world community. And then we need to have integrity, honesty, sincerity, all right, and humility, and moral and intellectual and emotional intelligence. I like the technologies also to be innovative. We need to be innovative, create them. So we need also all the governance, the leadership, the institutions, all right, the systems we create must also value this and make sure that we make the priority the health, safety, and well-being of people and nature. Something like that is what we need to do. So we shouldn't just create technology for the benefit of commercial success, all right, market success. We shouldn't do that. The validation criteria should be not just economics, but also the social gain, the environmental gain, the education gain, the health gain. All these have to be included. Some new approach is necessary, a new paradigm shift. We need to unthink to rethink, unlearn to relearn, unengineer to re-engineer, entirely the whole way by which we think. I don't like the way the technology is evolving. I don't like the way the economics is evolving. I don't like the way the politics is evolving. Everything seems negative. And now, what did it give us? COVID-19, all right, climate change, carbon diet, too much carbon diet. We shouldn't be in that situation, all right, and demographic explosion, and all the also in terms of culture. I imagine all the things people spread, wrong things and everything like that. Some new intelligent approach is what I really recommend to all of you. If we can, just for the sake of our children, we are a bit older and grown, except I could see Adam is very young, and also Jason is also young. But and of course Sharif yourself is young. But I'm getting older. But I want to contribute to the young people to live longer and nicer and more decently than all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Mamu. Thank you for your excellent speech, I want to say, because, yeah, definitely we want to collaborate more with the developing nations. Yes, with the help of developed world, with modern science, engineering, and technology, because this is very, very helpful for us. This is very important for us. And another things like World Talent Economy Forum, we are knowledge-based community. We are developing a knowledge-based community in developing world. Some of the achievement we achieve, already I shared that 15 villages in India we are developing. In Bangladesh Central Bank, they are collaborating with World Talent Economy Forum. We help them to develop climate change related policy. Also, Dhaka University, it's Oxford for South Asia. They also collaborate with us because we want to launch conference, Talent Economy, and we are preparing a scientific book. So already I send invitations to all of our fellow, those who interested to write on our scientific book, especially on talent economy and capital developments. You can do. We believe that human capital is most important. Perhaps we do not measure this human capital. With this scientific research, we can find out more valuable things for human. Beside that, Singapore, actually next month we have Singapore Leadership Institutions. We are working with them. We are collaborating with them. Japan, B Lab, I University, more than 600 scientists. They're working with World Talent Economy Forum. They are providing us support. From Africa Collated Lab, they are also helpful for us. And we have a good news that definitely this achievement not for World Talent Economy Forum. I want to share all of our speakers, those who continuously support us, contribute for us. World Talent Economy Forum from Asia Pacific, we selected as a fastest growing think tank and most innovative solution provider for developing worlds by the Venn Foundations. It's one of the futuristic foundations and largest corporation from Vietnam. And they are professors from Harvard and UC Berkeley. They nominate World Talent Economy Forum for our contributions. I do not want to be the champion for these nominations, but I want to share all of the good things with our speakers because you are most valuable for us. Last 2 years, every day, I think 365 days, I always seeking support from everyone. Everybody gonna support World Talent Economy Forum. And I believe with your contributions, we can develop next new world. We have a lot of challenges. We are observing Ukraine war. We are against it. Any kind of war, we are actually against it. We are observing challenge in our healthcare system. We have to fix many problems. So with the help of developed world, because you have technology, you have modern science, you have resources, and developing nations has lot of people, lot of youth. Maybe with your support and collaboration, we can develop next new world. This is our commitment. Our World Talent Economy Forum, we do not have any sponsor, any investors, any like foundation behind us who is supporting. We only develop this organization based on human goodwill, human capital. So this organization is a people's organizations, and all of you actually owner for this organization. I request all of our audience, those who regularly support us, inspire us, grow with us, please share our content with your government, with your corporations, and with your academy. I'm sure our speakers, those who are very experienced and knowledgeable, they are happy to support the developing nations, grassroots level people. Thank you everyone for excellent session. Tomorrow we have debate. It's very popular format, and Professor Sharidan Tatsun, actually this debate is based on your area. This house believe in the rise of augmented reality in Hollywood and its result. It's a one kind of fun debate. We have it's a parliamentary debate. We have prime ministers. Tomorrow's prime minister, Professor David Smith, opposition leaders, Professor Rob, and other speakers join as it is. If Professor Sharidan Tarchuni, if you have time, because this debate based on virtual reality and augmented reality, you can join. Hopefully, it will be very, very interesting debating session. And our audience really like already with Asia Debate Academy. Last 10 years, we developed around 3,000 debaters. And yes, in 2013, Bangladesh was World Debating Champion. I was part of these things. So hopefully through this debating process, we actually want to develop a new debating cultures. And we also inviting many parliament member to join in our debating sessions. So hopefully in the future, they will join. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care.
Bye, everyone.